Hey VC, Plastic Eric here. Plastic Soundwave Cult. Oh man, these first attempts are terrible.
Hey, welcome to Thursday Collection Connection. The channel name may have changed, but in the end, still just me yakking with my brother, talking about records. So we're playing Collection Connection, and I play it with my brother, Plastic Eric, from the Plastic Soundwave Cult channel. And you can play along, follow along by subscribing to both channels. In Eric's last video, he played Biffy Clyro Puzzle. This is the second time he has used a Biffy Clyro album. I noted the first time that he did that very few people in the US, this was actually my connection, had heard of Biffy Clyro, but they were very successful in the UK, where they're from. They're a Scottish band, and many of their records have gone to #1 in the UK, but have not charted in the US at all. People just don't know them here. They've never broken here. I think their sound is probably best described by the oxymoron mainstream alternative. I could sort of level the same criticism that I did toward my last pick, Dada, which was Dada was at the time sort of the codified sound of competent alternative music. And it feels like Biffy Clyro is sort of the post-grunge influenced version of the same thing. So it's a little heavier, and it's competent, and it's not bad. It's not hard to listen to, but it doesn't feel like it has a ton of personality to me the way the Dada didn't. So as far as a connection, with the caveat that I have lost all confidence in this connection, but it's Thursday and I'm filming on the day of the video yet again, so I don't have time to start over from scratch. But the Biffy Clyro album opens on a track that I'm already like. The problem with living is that everything dies, which is not exactly that, but something like that. Opens with a minute and a half of instrumental before the song kicks in. And as I was sort of researching bands or songs that I thought had a long intro on track 1, it seemed like that was unusual. Songs that I thought of as having a long intro, like Dazzle from Susie and the Banshees. Which one is that? Hyena, or Tie Your Mother Down from Day at the Races from Queen. All managed to get their long intros done in under a minute. So a minute 30 seemed like quite a stretch. I imagine that it's probably not unusual for prog bands to take that long to kick into a song. But I don't really listen to prog music, so I don't really have a lot of prog music. The one that I do have that I looked into is Duke by Genesis. And of course, the opening track on that does go on for about 2.5 minutes. Is that Across the Lines? I have too many song titles jammed in my head that I'm trying to remember for this video. But yeah, as I was kind of following up this morning, I mean, shoot, The Cure does it twice in on Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me with the song The Kiss, and on Disintegration with Plain Song. Those both take over 2.5 minutes. I think it's even over 3 minutes with The Kiss for the vocals to actually kick in. But nonetheless, my connection was about 1.5 minutes. I couldn't find anything that was the exact same length intro on a regular song with vocals. It's not unusual for an album to open up with, say, an instrumental track or fanfare of some sort. Just a short intro, whatever. But this is first song. It's a full-on song with lyrics, chorus, blah-de-da. But just takes a while to kind of get going. And my candidates were The first thing I thought of, which was U2's The Joshua Tree, uh, which takes about a minute 40 something to kick into I Want to Run. The Streets Have No Name, Where the Streets Have No Name. And the Stone Roses, I Want to Be Adored. So those are kind of slow build beginnings, which is like my pick, which takes about a minute 40 something to kick in. And I'm sticking with it because I don't have time to research anything new, but it's also an album I'd love to talk about because it's in my personal, probably top 100 records. And it's a little underappreciated, I think. And the opening track is Hannah, and it is off the album The House of Love by The House of Love. That's their second album. Their first was also called The House of Love. So this one's sometimes called the Butterfly album or Fontana, which is the label. Their first album was released on Creation Records, and this album, they were signed for their second album, Fontana. It underperformed in the charts, but it scored on 120 Minutes, and that's kind of where I became aware of it, and that's where I became aware of the band in general. They frequently played the Beatles and the Stones, and I Don't Know Why I Love You, both great tracks, but they just failed to make the chart impact. And it was the last album that they made with their original lineup, and sort of the story of the band is kind of the story of slowly, eventually falling apart. They released several more records. I think they've come back some. Guy Chadwick, who was the guy who kept the band going, and Terry Bickers, who was the founding guitarist. They fell out, and Terry left after this second record, kind of while they were promoting it, who was not happy that they had signed to Fontana in the first place. And they made up at some point and have released a couple albums, but I don't think it's with the entire original lineup. Anyway, Hannah is a great opening track. Even after all these years, 30 plus years, I find it mesmerizing. The whole album achieves a feat that I kind of associate with the band Elbow, which is that the songs are huge and expansive, and yet at the same time kind of meditative and quiet. And it's a great album to put on. Like, it feels much more sedate and dreamy and calm than it really is. I mean, some of the songs kind of really pound, but it feels like they cut kind of the edges off in the way that, say, Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd, sort of in a thematic sense, kind of cuts off all the peaks and everything just kind of smooth. Sounds just kind of smooth. It's maybe a little too adult. They were thought that they were going to be kind of the mantle to the Smiths after their first record, which was much more raw sounding, but they never were. Just another, also ran, I guess, but this album is terrific. I love it. I came to it first. I didn't buy the first album called The House of Love for a good number of years after getting this one. But yeah, I come back to it often. It's a one I keep in my pocket to pull out for something that hasn't been played to death, or it's just kind of a surprising left field. You know what? This is a solid album from beginning to end, and it's not one that people talk about. So I thought I would talk about it. It's got a long intro. That was my connection to the Biffy Clyro. I concede that that's not a great connection, and that it's not necessarily all that unusual. It's not as unusual as all the songs that I picked. It's kind of hard to research a thing when it's just like, what song can I think of that I think has a long intro? And queuing it up and seeing if the intro was as long as I thought. When I did it a couple of days ago, everything I was coming up with was well under a minute and a half, usually around a minute or so. But this morning, as I was kind of following up on it, it seemed like every track I found had a super long intro on it. So I guess it's not that unusual, but it is there. It takes a while to kick in, to the song proper. And I highly recommend, gosh, just about every song on here. In a Room, it's fantastic. Someone's Gotta Love You. Shine On, weirdly, they re-recorded Shine On, and it is much more raucous and raw and garagey on their first album. But it reappears, same song, on their second album, with a little more of that adult contemporary touch on it. But it sounds great. I prefer this version, I guess, because it's the one I was used to. I don't know if that is the sort of thing that made them flop relatively. People didn't want a new version of it. I have no idea. But I love the album. I recommend it highly. I hope Eric enjoys it. I know everything's not to everybody's taste, but I think there's definitely good stuff here. I will throw that over to Eric, and you can look for his response on Monday on his channel, The Plastic Soundwave Cult. And so that's all I have. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.